Good evening and welcome back to Control Room. It is me, the beautiful Joe Pasevich, back with you after a 3-week hiatus. I hope you enjoyed last week's show. If you did see it, it was a replay from 20 years ago of me making an appearance on Our Town with Jimmy Cipolo. You might remember Jimmy Cipolo. Those were the golden years of Marshfield Community TV, as they say. Jimmy Cipolo's show, Stu, Winslow Carver, George Shaw, Rusty Tremonti, etc. This is basically the next generation right here. And we're looking for you to come into the studio to start your own podcast. We've got to keep it going. I've got some special guests here. I've got Christine Hill and I've got Derek Bennett yes. from Duxbury. They're going to give us the lowdown on what's going on in Duxbury right now. Because, remember, the lesson of Control Room is whatever happens locally, you can understand nationally. Whatever's happening nationally, you can use to understand what's going on locally, human nature being what it is. Also, what's going on in the towns around us is critical to understand because we are not alone. And basically the same power structures, the same type of establishment, and the same types of rules are in play there too. So what might be happening in Duxbury could be coming to you in 6 months or a year. So we need to understand what's going on in the towns around us. But we need to understand, first of all, there is breaking news. Karen Reed was found not guilty on all 3 of the major charges, but she was found guilty of operating under the influence or driving under the influence. And that's a charge and a finding that's based on a chemical test. They apparently tested her blood in the morning of the incident where they found the body of Mr. O'Keefe. And they basically, based on the alcohol content of her blood, were able to sort of backtrack and determine what, based on the metabolism that went on in her body, what the alcohol levels would have been in her blood while she was driving around earlier that morning. And based on that scientific evidence, they were able to convict her for driving under the influence. So that's all. She's found not guilty. And you know, I don't want to overstate it, please forgive me, but they had to raise over $1 million in donations to get the defense team in place for Karen Reed, over $1 million. The state must have spent probably an equal amount of money to prosecute this case over the 2 trials. From the start, it was flawed. It wasn't investigated properly. There was all the points of evidence. There was the idea that Mr. O'Keefe's sweater had 9 puncture holes, but on his arm there were 31 lacerations. So how do you get 31 lacerations from a broken taillight through 9 small puncture holes, which are obviously dog bites, okay? It was so obviously a bad case and poorly run, poorly investigated. It was just a farce. And the state still spent all that money, and a lot of people came out. Why? Because of mistrust of the government, because of the blue line, because of the cops defending cops. And I got nothing against cops, okay? But that's what people perceive, that the government will do whatever it has to defend its own, to get what they want and spend unlimited funds, which they have because it's your tax dollars. And again, I don't want to overstate my situation, but when I was arrested, okay, and I was dragged through the system for 16 months, finally having to like borrow some money and raise money to pay for my defense, okay, when I had a public defender initially that said, Joe, you're never going to win this, you have to plead guilty. I said, I'm not guilty of anything. I fought the case. They dragged me through the system for 16 months. They put me on trial, on a 2-day trial in Plymouth Superior Court, and it took the jury less than 10 minutes to say, you're not guilty of all charges. What did the state spend on that? And when people ask the district attorney, why did you put Joe through that? My sources tell me that the answer was because the people in power in Marshfield wanted to get Joe. That's inside information. And the courtroom was full of Phil Tavares and Jim Robinson and all the mucky mucks in town. They were all there. Oh boy, we're getting Joe now because he asked too many questions at town meeting. He asked too many questions, period. He challenges us too much. And it took the jury less than 10 minutes to say this is a joke, not guilty on all charges. And the way the town officials fled, they ran like rats from the courtroom. And Bob Parkus and the crowd of people that was there from a town, God bless them all, cheered and hugged me. And it was just like a tiny piece, a representation of what happened today with Karen Reed and what they put her through. Because the government will spend all your funds, all your money to defend themselves. And that's why there's so much mistrust of government. MBTA Communities Act, 40B, all the shenanigans at town meeting. What did we just go through? We just had a town administrator, which I understand was forced to resign. All right? This town needs a good shakeup, and it needs to continue. And what we're finding right now, my friends, from the latest information I have, is that we have not even gone deep enough. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface from the latest information I'm getting over the last couple of days of how deep the desire for this empire to stay in control, and they are striking back. And one way they're striking back is through asserting themselves. Look at what they're doing with our education system. Look at what they're doing with our kids. And they're striking back at Eric Kelley. As far as what they're doing with our kids, remember this incident at town meeting that we just had, the June 2nd town meeting, when one of the recent graduates?
I can tell that these people do spectacular work, especially for me, someone who is in their special education program and someone who struggles a lot with a lot of the material. They have provided so much resources to the point where I can get to the point where I can walk up on that stage next week and get my diploma and go to college. These people have given me these resources to even do that, something I thought I would never be able to do. I just thought I was stupid and would just become a mechanic, and now I'm going for...
Imagine that. Now, who conditioned this kid or trained this kid or indoctrinated this kid to think that he would be stupid if he could just be a mechanic? Is that a commentary? Does that give you a little insight as to what they're doing with our kids? And as I just mentioned, with the 3 victories in a row that we've had, we've removed 3 incumbents in a row from the Board of Selectmen. Most recently, Lynn Fidler, who was a protege of Mike Maresco. We've done that. You've done it. I've been in this fight for over 20 years. And look at how they painted me as the naysayer who asked too many questions at town meeting. And now we got Eric Kelley, we got Trish Simpson on the select board. And now they're running scared because reforms are happening and people are being replaced and going to be forced to resign. So what are they doing now? They're coming after Eric Kelley because to them, here's the linchpin. So they're currying favor with Trish Simpson. They've got Steve Darcy in there, who shouldn't be in there, he should be recalled. And now they're going after Eric. For some reason, they think they can turn Trish Simpson against Eric Kelley. I'm telling it like it is. This is as blunt as I can get. And they're coming after Eric Kelley, and they're going to use every method and every issue to try to get after Eric. Is Eric a silver-tongued orator? Okay? Is he like working a lot of hours? Does he have a family? Is he, I think sometimes maybe like stretched to the limits? Of course. But that's what people do when they care about this town, is they go out of their way and they sacrifice to help. And now they're trying to make an issue over this whole playground so-called controversy, and they're trying to pin something on Eric like he's responsible and he's against access of handicapped children to playgrounds, which is insane. Playgrounds have been falling apart for years. I helped rebuild and install a playground at the Daniel Webster School, and I happened to be running for office that year. The newspapers came out to see us group of parents putting in a new playground. And I was already outspoken. I was always questioning the budgetary policies and other policies in this town. And when the newspaper came out there, they took a photograph of every single parent, and they took down every single parent's name except mine. Oh, Joe, you have a persecution complex. That's a fact. That's how this regime has acted for decades in this town. And finally, people are waking up. And now when we find out that the playgrounds have been neglected, that the DPW has what appears to be a slush fund that they've been accumulating that should have been used for the playgrounds. Eric Kelley was one of the first people that went out there, along with some parents who started complaining and started to bring this issue out into the light. He was on the point saying, what's going on here? When he first heard about it, he went out there and started digging. And now that some money has been appropriated from the CPC funds, or the CPA funds, Eric Kelley just wants it done correctly and properly. That's all. So Eric Kelley called for a hearing, a discussion, a public discussion on the issue. It got delayed a couple of times. But you have to have a public discussion and get everybody on the same page before you can move ahead with this. So the select board finally had, the DPW tried to jump the gun in front of the select board. They had a public meeting 2 weeks ago. Eric Kelley finally, after overcoming scheduling conflicts with the select board room, was able to get a public information session scheduled 1 week ago today on the 11th, and everything was going fine. Here's one of the first things that was indicated. It was Eric Kelley, I think it's video number 3, Mr. Producer, when Eric Kelley, after the first 20 minutes of the meeting, determined or gave his opinion that, okay, it sounds to me like Sean Patterson and Andrew Stewart and the other people have got their act together. So Eric Kelley was expressing his satisfaction. Things were going the right way. Meaningful, mindful planning and awareness of the budget limitations was being taken into consideration. So here's what Eric Kelley said. I think it's clip 3.
I mean, you can always dig it up, but nobody, you know, we lay that PIP down. I don't think anybody's going to be happy if you dug it up afterwards. So that's what I'm saying is that I'm glad everybody's paying attention and doing the due diligence and saying, yeah, hey, look, this is what we should do, and then moving forward, and then we'll do something for the surface afterwards, right?
So, yeah, one of the things I mentioned at the last meeting was no matter what decision you and I or the rest of the board or Andrew make, not everybody's going to be happy. We got to do the best we can with what we have that's going to make it work for everybody.
No, you know something, Sean? I would agree with you that not everybody's going to be happy. That's why.
Well, look at the Bullnose project, for instance. No matter what you do down there, not everybody's going to be happy.
Right.
We did what we thought was going to be the best solution.
You know, so the whole thing is that not everybody's going to be happy is a very good possibility. But the whole thing is that I think if people see the effort being put in
I agree with you.
in the thought, in the process of it all, I think they'd be more than happy just to see that going on, what is going on right now. And that was the way I look at it, that was my goal before we just jumped into this, and that's what I'm appreciative of right now, is that there is being time and thought being put into this and saying, all right, before we go full bore on just laying down whatever ground service we are, all right, we do have to make improvements before we do that.
Oh, definitely.
All right, now let's go to clip number 2 when they discuss the issue of maintenance. Now everybody seems to be everything's gelling. Everybody's getting on the same page. This is what Eric's been trying to do on clip 2. Let's see what happens.
Some of these playgrounds that don't get used and have been neglected for a long time, we will be taking out. So I guess, in a sense, we'll be condensing a lot of the playgrounds into functional ones that are used all the time, and they will meet all the standards that Andrew was talking about. We also we're ADA compliant, we're safe, and we can hopefully get by with the maintenance. One of the things I wanted to mention earlier was going forward after we do this, because we can't use CPC money for maintenance.
Well, I wanted to ask you about it, because I know you and I discussed this last year in regards to when they closed the playgrounds. I want to say between me, you, and town council Gavin, that you're right, the maintenance, but the whole thing is that if you got to replace swings and all that, you can't use CPC funding for the equipment and everything like that, I believe, right?
No, it depends. If we're going to put all new in, yes. So what I want to suggest going forward is that we devise a maintenance program.
So thanks to Eric Kelley, we're all getting on board that there's a need for careful consideration and planning and future thinking, looking ahead to the problems that we're going to have with maintenance and equipment replacement. Even Andrew Stewart also, but what Sean doesn't tell you is that there's reportedly over $300,000 in the DPW's coffers, in their budget, in their pots, that they've been hanging on to. And why haven't they used that yet? That's a question that remains to be answered. But even Andrew Stewart joins in with the kumbaya.
The amount of maintenance that it takes to continually fix that, make sure that you have the right bounce and everything, and make sure that you're meeting all the standards for safety, for impact safety, fall safety, all of that stuff. The amount of daily maintenance that it would take the facility staff, the amount of material would have to, that it would have to be constantly bringing in, it's just not, it's not feasible, it's not sustainable.
All right. It sounds like out of all this is what I was hoping for, and that is that there's a game plan coming up. We're not just gonna go out and we'll do this and spend $750,000 and then potentially have to revisit this. So this is what I'm looking for, is that everybody's doing their part, come up with a game plan, doing their homework.
Okay, that's good on that
That's
clip.
the most important.
That's good. So here we go. Again, Eric is now being shown that, wood chips and poured in place, that there's trade-offs, that due diligence is being done to make sure it's going to be safe, it's going to be economical and affordable. Now, they had only inspected 2 playgrounds on the day of this public information session. Okay, they don't really have hearings. They have some rough ballpark figures for what it's going to cost. We need to know if the $750,000 plus maybe the $300,000 that the DPW is sitting on is going to go far enough. And that's what they're doing. That's what Eric is promoting, and that's what Eric is doing. All right, so now what happens? The vultures come out, all right? The knives come out. We can't miss this opportunity to go after Eric. The DPW board chairperson now says that she wants the select board to set up a playground committee. But she wants the playground committee to be under their control, under her control. Okay? That doesn't jive. And they start, Mr. Patterson, Mr. Stewart, and Miss Jordan now start to proclaim that they're only there to be nice. They're only there as a courtesy to the select board and to Eric Kelley in particular, This is not Eric Kelley's show. They want it to be their show. I mean, at one point, Sean Patterson even said, well, we can't do wood chips anymore because I went to inspect the playground with wood chips on it and I started to sneeze. And he attributed that to mold in the wood chips. And Eric questioned him and said, how do you know it was mold in the wood chips? But in other words, Mr. Patterson is obviously on board with pouring in place. But do you have to just make up a story that you're sneezing because there's mold in the wood chips? Eric even asked him, what, did you look at the wood chips? Did you have them tested for mold? Which you can do, So basically, self-serving initiatives or feelings start to emerge, and the knives then come out for Eric Kelley. Here's clip 4.
The grounds for the town. And they have gotten the funds to do that. So it's their issue to do that.
Well, let's remember.
And so we're here, honestly,
how many boards and
I'm
committees
here
were
as a
on the-
courtesy tonight.
How many boards and committees were on that article for the PIP?
I'm here as a courtesy tonight because I care about the kids in this town, all right?
We all do.
And we are here as a courtesy tonight to help explain this to you because you called this meeting, all right? We're working every day, during the day, to get this accomplished, okay? So part of what we did at work today was do an inspection. Also, what we did at work today was research, and we communicated with each other. So every single day we are at work working on this, okay? We're doing this as an informational session, an informational meeting, because you wanted to have it. But we made the decision last week at our working group, and we've been working towards that ever since, just so you know.
Yeah, it's fine. There's 5 boards on this article. You know that, right?
Who else?
One of them?
I'm one of them.
are one of them.
I applied for the application, and so did Mr. Maresco. We were the only 2 that did. We went before the CPC, and we explained what we were planning on doing, which is pretty much what I explained again tonight and last week. The town meeting voted to move forward with the money,
Name again.
with the plan that I had put in place months ago of how we're going to attack this. I don't think it's going to do anybody any good to delay any further. I think we need to move forward and do our due diligence for these folks that are sitting here in this room and the other ones that couldn't make it tonight.
I don't think anybody here is intentionally trying to delay this. I think, at least my opinion, from my perspective, is the fact that we just got town meeting approved $750,000 for Port in Place. And then the whole thing is that there are people out there with different opinions on it that wanted to be heard. And
That's all fine and good.
The other issue is going forward is having a plan, if we decide to go with Port in Place, that it gets done right the first time, so we don't have to revisit it and spend another $750,000 because it wasn't done right.
So
That's the way I look at it.
I think that's what we're trying to do.
That's our job.
Yeah, you started it today, you said.
No, we've been,
No, we've been doing this.
You
We
said-
went and did the
you
inspections
went
today.
and visited 2 playgrounds.
We did the inspections today
Point
and
of
started
order.
doing the analysis.
Excuse me. I think we're kind of just going around in circles, all right? And I just
agree.
I think we heard what everyone had to say, and one sec. And I just think we're saying the same things again, okay? And I think we need to come to a consensus that everyone's done their work and they've spoken and we've heard them, and we need to figure out how we can end the meeting.
All right.
Megan Nyland. My daughter is Ellie. She is 6. She's in a wheelchair. I think at one of your meetings that you were actually at, Eric, it wasn't the last 2 because you weren't there, it was a town meeting. You said that, yeah, of course, you can get over wood chips in a wheelchair.
No, it was actually.
I can assure you, I don't care where it was, Eric, but I can assure you, you could not use my daughter's wheelchair and get over any wood chips, okay? You couldn't get over the lips in the playground.
I agree.
You couldn't get over anything. Second of all, Andrew has been working on this for months with us. He has met privately with us. He has done so much homework. You would think he is a father of a child with a disability. Unlike yourself, who clearly could care less because we keep meeting. We keep meeting and we're doing nothing. They have done their homework. They are trying their hardest. DPW and Andrew have gone above and beyond. And every mother here that has a disabled child or friend of that, we couldn't be more thankful. Thank you all so much. Diane, everyone. Third, all it will take me to do in an hour from now is go home, get on my computer, and I will go to the Massachusetts Gov website, and I will file a complaint against the town of Marshfield. We will be fined, and they will make you put the PIP in, no matter what. I don't know if you've done that homework either. Have you?
Can't say I
Do you
have.
want to be the person that everyone knows as, we were fined because you do not care about the rights and the abilities of children that are handicapped? Do you want to be that person, Eric? Because that's not
an unfair
far-fetched.
statement, I think, in my opinion. Because I already stated,
Eric,
My
we're here
purpose
again
is-
because of you.
What's that?
My kids still can't play in a playground because of you.
oh, because of me.
Yes, Eric, 100%. And any other
Please
mother
enlighten
here
me.
can raise their hand and
Please
say, yes,
enlighten
it's
me
you.
in regards to why-
Because
because it's
Steve
my fault.
and Trish, they're all for it. They're all for it. You can say whatever you want. I would kill for my daughter. I can assure you, Steve, Eric, I will do anything for my child and all of these children, all the children in Marshfield. You are not going to stop us. The state of Massachusetts will stop you.
I wasn't trying to stop anybody.
Yes, what are we here for again, Steve? But Eric, I'm sorry. I'm so done with you and your nonsense. It's ridiculous. It's insane.
Okay? Are you done?
No, and I won't be done until this starts. And you are literally the only person in this room stopping it. Only one.
I'm not stopping anything.
Anyone else raise your hand?
I,
Why are we here then, Eric?
because I asked for a discussion on it. You showed up for a
So you and
discussion.
Marcy are against the PIP, and that's it.
Did I say I was against it?
Yes.
I said I wasn't a fan of it.
Go ahead, do you want to talk? Like what?
What are you a fan of that's ADA compliant, that's not wood chip?
I can, look, I said it before. I was like, if the PIP is the way to go, then so be it.
It's the way to go.
If everyone
so
here
be
thinks
it.
it's the way to go.
Do you want to vote right now?
There is no required vote. It's just a discussion. Did you read the agenda? It's a discussion on it.
Perfect.
Again.
Get it-
And we're discussing.
Again. And my daughter in a wheelchair still has to watch her friends play. She cannot do anything on a playground.
I'm sorry to hear that. No, how do I not
Show me
care?
that you care.
Well, I don't know, explain to me, how do I care? I mean, I'm
What?
$750,000 of taxpayer money to have a discussion on before we go forward, to make sure the playgrounds are all set.
Taxpayers want to put their money towards it.
What-
All these taxpayers.
All right, before this turns into a melee, let's just agree, we're gonna do our jobs like we have set out to do.
Yeah.
And move forward right now. End of discussion, no more.
I'm done.
Eric,
You have any of that?
your face.
Don't let-
I hope to see you in town soon. I hope to see you.
I'm right here if you want to.
Eric, everyone knows who you are and how much of a piece of crap you are.
Thank you.
And no one wants you on this board again.
Thank you.
Not one person in this room.
Thank you.
does. Have a good night.
Do you have any of that, sir?
Not really. It just seems like Jim Kennedy, 16
Thank you.
Gates Ave. It's just like, why are we back here again? And every time I hear someone that isn't for the PIP, they don't have any solutions. I'm so sick of hearing people, I'm not for it. Show me the studies where it's not good. Show me your solutions. No one has any solutions other than this PIP. So let's just go forward with it, all right? And with the heat, I feel like I'm a freaking, an expert at this. I work in construction. I've talked to a ton of people. There is no way it does retain more heat, but there are ways around it. The light shields, using lighter colors.
I agree with that. Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, so
All right, that's enough. All right, see, there you go. So Eric is trying to get everybody on the record, trying to get everything out in the open, and then people begin to project their anger and frustration against Eric. And there's more to it than that. There are things going on in the background, and you watch, there are going to be more attempts to go after Eric's head. And like over this whole thing about like the gay pride proclamation and stuff like that, Eric has been working very hard to come to a common ground with Steve Darcy on this. And my sources of information show me that Mr. Darcy is intent, in my opinion, in trying to embarrass Eric and politicize the issue of Gay Pride Month, which should not be politicized. You want to have a parade, you want to have a recognition, you want to have a discussion about issues that might affect people of that community, fine. But to politicize it and use it to try to embarrass Eric, like they're trying to use this to embarrass Eric, when he's been on the tip of the spear trying to get this issue addressed and documented, is atrocious. It's a crime, all right? And with that, I've got a hand, and then we'll talk more about this in the future, but right now, like I said, I have Christine Hill here. Christine Hill of DuxburySubstack.com. Recently, the MBTA zoning was passed by Duxbury Town Meeting this past Monday. Christine Hill has a very intense and thorough analysis of what happened there. I'm going to turn it over to Christine now. Welcome, Christine. Good to see you back. Tell us what happened, and we have a couple of clips.
Okay, so I guess we're gonna start with the MBTA communities. So for the past, in the fall, Duxbury voted down MBTA communities by about 793 to 80. I don't remember the exact figures. So the town decided to hire a organization called CHAPA, which is, it's supposed to be fair housing, but it's really run by developers.
Citizens Housing and Planning Association, CHAPA.
Yes, it's like a front for developers and
It is.
that fund them. That's all it is. It's all funded by big developers.
And they're there to promote 40B and other iterations of land
40B,
control.
And they brag about how they were behind the new law, okay? So they hired them to do this propaganda campaign. It's a campaign that's gone all across the state and is basically involves scaring people into voting for it by saying if you don't do it, you're not going to comply with the law. And it's not, the issue is not the law, it's the regulations that accompany the law and whether they're fair, and that hasn't been fully tested in court yet, so we don't know. And then they'll say, you're going to lose all these grants. And the state is taking away some grants, like they took away the Marshfield grant for the North River, which was, insane. But the grants are very small in comparison to the long-term costs of bringing in all this housing that basically doesn't pay for itself. The apartments in Duxbury only pay about $1,200 per month in in taxes. And
Annually, sorry, right?
Annually, yes, annually, in taxes, and so that doesn't pay for the cost of having them, I mean, if you have one kid in there, it costs $18,000 per kid. And so they came up with a plan that has new zoning. It was better than the last plan because it's on top of existing buildings, but there's still room for 240 new housing units. Now, my problem with this were two. First of all, we haven't explored what the costs of the 240 housing units are gonna be over the long term, so we can't really make a good decision because we don't know what the costs and benefits are. They purposely avoided exploring that issue. And then my other issue is they constantly lied. I mean, just lie after lie after lie. They went before the planning board, the finance committee that makes the recommendations to the town about whether or not to support one of these projects, and they claimed that we had a $500,000 grant that was at risk. It was false. We've signed a contract for the grant, and it's been signed since March, so it was completely safe. They said that there were many more towns who had signed, who'd signed up for it than actually have. Because of these mistruths, and because one of the people on the MBTA communities board, she kind of lost it and started screaming about, about me and about, she attacked Ken Sweezy as well.
Wasn't she funded somehow through the community
I don't know.
Commonwealth One or something?
She was associated with it in some way.
Okay.
We don't quite know how. But she would know, like, if I signed up for one Commonwealth, she would know that I'd signed up for it. And she's run, at her house in Duxbury, she's run fundraisers for Governor Maura Healey. And so she had to resign because she attacked Ken, not because she attacked me, but because she attacked Ken Sweezy very rudely. Representative Ken Sweezy for Duxbury.
But she was working to promote and push the MBTA
Oh,
zoning.
yeah, she was totally working to promote it, and she was just lying. She had, at one point, she was talking in one of the meetings about how she wanted to, what was it? The primal brain. She wanted to get in touch with everybody's primal brain so they just go along with something without thinking about it. So anyway, that's actually my main issue with the whole thing. So anyways, that got passed at the Duxbury town meeting. We have here, Derek Bennett was also at the meeting. Do you have anything to say about the MBTA communities?
Well, the MBTA community zoning bylaw passed 255 to 152. And you did have some apparent victories at the town meeting also.
Well, we had to, I was gonna ask him first about the MBTA
Good on.
communities before we went.
This
to
is
the
Derek
next
Bennett.
victory.
Derek, welcome.
Anything specific?
Is there anything that you wanna add to what I said about what happened with MBTA communities?
Did you speak at town meeting?
Not in regards to the MBTA.
Okay.
I did not.
Okay,
No.
we can talk about, the other thing is, okay, so we had the town manager and the finance committee particularly tried to have an override last year and it failed, okay? But as part of the override, mysteriously, all of the most important services in each department, like the things that people like the most, they were cut. And so, for example, the Duxbury Free Library, its best day for having people there is on Sundays. So, and it doesn't cost very much to open, but it was cut, and that happened in every department. And they also cut 2 police officers, funding for 2 police officers and 2 firefighters. Now, they didn't have to fire anybody, but that's important money, whether you want to use it to hire somebody new or you use the money for overtime. So we decided, there was a whole group of us, including me, including Derek, and we, everybody else other than me, I made some calculations. Everybody gathered some signatures, and we put two articles on the town meeting to fund the police and fire department from the stabilization fund. So we transferred about $400,000 from the stabilization fund to fund the police and fire department. Now, the big thing this sets up is, how do we balance the budget next year? Everybody on the finance committee, the select board, the town manager are like, now that you've done that, you have to support an override, whereas we believe that you have to make better spending decisions. You have to prioritize. I mean, you definitely prioritize public safety over having 4 people in the human resources department. If after you've done all the efficiencies that you can, then maybe you need an override, but not while you have 4 people in your human resources department. So anyway, Derek was the proponent, so he spoke at the town meeting on behalf of both of the articles, and also he was the champion of all of the signature gathering. In like 3 hours one morning, he gathered, what was it, 70 signatures?
Yeah, I mean, it was over the course of 2 days, 2 mornings, maybe about 4 or 5 hours total.
Yeah.
And over 100 signatures. I think in total we had about 275 signatures. And like I said, maybe 5 or 6 hours time. So many residents were on board. There wasn't much opposition to signing the petition. So anyhow, I think it's important to note that if there's something near and dear to you or your town, that it's doesn't take that much effort to acquire signatures, get a citizen's petition, and get an article on a town warrant.
Was that the first time you had done that?
That was my first time, yes.
There you go, folks.
Yeah.
We've never done anything like this in Duxbury.
No, I don't think it'll be the last time either.
No.
There's some other issues I think that need addressing in town, and I think it's a good way to get things on the town warrant and get it in front of the residents to let them make a decision and use their voice.
And go to town meeting, and if
Yes.
there are boards and committees you can volunteer for, why not? You know what I mean, some of them don't require a lot of time.
Yeah, one of the things we learned from the MBTA communities was they had this huge, basically it was a propaganda campaign. And one of the things is if somebody's lying, it's very hard to counter their lies because you just lie.
It's endless.
It's endless. And so you can correct their lies, but you also have to have positive messaging, okay?
Yeah.
So we need more of the positive messaging. And then the other thing that they did was they went to every single committee in town. We have so many of them. It may not be every single, but almost every committee in town, and did this very manipulative presentation that was often full of misleading or just blatantly false information. And so they gave it to hundreds of people in person in small groups.
And if someone speaks against what they're saying, are they labeled malcontents or spreading misinformation?
Misinformation, disinformation,
Guilty.
possibly
Guilty.
QAnon. I've heard that one recently, so.
Can I read the, I don't know, if there was the planning board recently, there was a guy on the planning board who had this just awful quote about how, it's disappeared from my website, I don't know where it is. He had this quote about how the planning board had to police what people were saying on the internet. So it was from earlier this year.
Wow.
And he was saying, there's all this misinformation. The misinformation is terrible, and we have to police what people are saying.
And are we seeing this nationally? What's the lesson of control room? Yes.
Yes, we are seeing this nationally. It was pretty terrible. Yeah, it was bad. That's all I can say about that. So anyway, what Derek and I are doing with a whole bunch of other people in Duxbury is our budget process in our town government doesn't really work. I mean, to be quite frank, personally, I like our town manager, Rainey Reed, and I find him very amusing to cover, but he's not effective as a town manager, and he should probably be replaced. There seems to be every single person that I talk to agrees with that, but he's still in charge. Every single person that I talk to says that they don't want to have a 4-person HR department. It's 3.5 people, actually. We have the largest HR department in the South Shore, and we have
12,000 residents.
16,000.
16, yeah.
But we have, it's enormous. Okay. We have this enormous HR department, and there's no reason for it. And so what we're gonna do, we have an appointed finance committee with the same people who've been there forever. Some of them we love, and have done a great job. But there's no turnover ever in it. And there are some long-term members on it we really want to stay on there, so I don't wanna sound too negative there. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna form the Committee for a Sustainable Duxbury. And we're gonna make our own budget, and we're gonna make our own, we're gonna try to repeal the MBTA communities bylaw. And we'll propose the budget for the town meeting next year. We'll probably put it on the warrant through a citizens petition.
And Christine, can I just back up for a minute? 'Cause
Yeah.
So earlier in March, we had a $4.8 million budget override that
Yeah.
failed.
Yeah.
And that's what got us to the defunded police and fire positions, along with other positions in town. And this year, Duxbury's already talking that there's a $600,000 shortfall for FY '27 budget. And so it's looking like they're gonna be pushing for another override come March of 26, I'm sorry. So I think what we're going to be doing is what Christine mentioned is just start a citizens group to kind of review the budget and make a comparison against the proposed budget by the town.
Yeah, and there's so many things that we have to look at when we do that. First of all, is this $600,000, they're saying there's gonna be a $600,000 deficit.
Shortfall,
Is this even true? I've looked at the forecast, they're very conservative. Then another thing to do is what's happened, and one of the county commissioners from Plymouth County, you know his name, don't you, Joe? There's a guy in the Plymouth County Commission who's cut back he and one other woman there have cut back the costs in the Plymouth County Commission extensively. And the way he explains it is, 15 years ago, if you were in Rockland, where he is from, you had a town manager and he had an assistant. In the last 15 years, there's been this enormous growth of all these positions centralized in the town manager's office. And the question is that what we really want, or do we want strong?
Sorry about that.
Do we want strong department heads?
Okay, we're talking something else. Go ahead, sorry.
Right, so we want strong department heads, and then we want a small town manager's office. It all gets centralized, there's all this cost, and it's very inefficient. What we want is a really empowered police chief, a really empowered harbor master, a very empowered fire department. They're the main people, and the town manager is only there really to provide them with administrative support and to put together a budget. It's not, that's it.
The person you were mentioning was Jared Valenzola.
Jared Valenzola.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, can I just go off topic? Can I read this comment from somebody on the planning board?
Go. We got a couple of clips too we got to get to.
Oh, okay, wait, in terms of the Facebook thing, there's so many specious arguments and misinformation and disinformation, and it's kind of the point. They're flooding the zone with what. Oh, so it's not going to be something that one person can counter. If we take this approach of, let's police it, let's monitor it. That is from a member of our planning board. And then the head of the planning board then directs the interim planner to go and monitor groups that talk on the internet.
Yeah. And who's going to do that? Could it be
Interim
someone in the
planner.
someone in the police department? Like we have an IT person who's a police officer.
I don't think it's going to be somebody I don't think the police would touch that.
Okay.
But I think it's just very strange. Do you want to show the clips?
Yeah, well, because it's great for the citizens to get involved and get active and start taking initiatives with petitions and such. But at the same time, if you don't have control of key offices, like the town moderator, for example, this is what happens in places like Marshfield and Duxbury. Clip number 6.
Is the overall density that we're permitting with regard to these two specific sub-districts, the MCOD Tremont and the MCOD Kingstown. So that's, again, the overall density there is 15 units per acre. Again, they cannot build a 5-story building at either of these locations. The bylaw prohibits that. It caps it on.
Can they knock these down?
Thank you very much for your comments, but I think we'll move along to some of the other.
I'm not finished.
Thank you.
I am not finished.
Gentleman over here.
Excuse me?
Moderator, I think we've discussed this article adequately. I move the question.
Thank you. We have a motion seconded to move the question, which requires a majority vote. I'd like to open the voting.
And that's democracy in Duxbury. We've seen similar effrontery to people here in Marshfield. So this is part of the problem. And if you want answers to questions and you want substantiation to what they're trying to sell you, here's another example of what happened at Duxbury Town Meeting, clip number 5.
I have a little brother with a learning disability who had a really sweet math teacher this year. She's brand new. She really went out of her way to make sure he was accommodated, and I had, 2 teachers that really showed extra effort, and I recently discovered that they're being moved to the middle school, and my little brother's math teacher is being fired, and I'm just wondering, with this new increase of residents, which we know they will probably have children, how's that going to affect the school budget, and are we going to have more cuts to our budget?
That's a very good question. As I mentioned earlier, we did not do a fiscal impact study, so we don't really know. We don't have projections as to what would happen.
Now, who is that speaking right there?
Okay, so so I like him personally. That is Steve Gant, who works for the Massachusetts Housing Partnership, which is a state, one of these quasi-governmental organizations. And Massachusetts Housing Partnership paid for the grant for CHAPA to come in and do the propaganda, which sold the...
Yeah, gave the town their talking points.
Is Mr. Gant a resident of Duxbury?
He is.
Oh, how convenient.
He's also on the MBTA working group in Duxbury.
He's the chair of the working group.
Yeah.
And
he's also on the planning board now.
Oh, my. Gee, what could possibly go wrong there? And yet the vote passed by 255 to 152 for the MBTA community zoning bylaw that allows for the development of additional housing units around Island Creek villages, 255 to 152. Now, was that the main motion on MBTA zoning?
Yes, I think, Derek, do you think we did a good job getting people out to vote?
I mean, that's 255
I don't
to
think,
1.
I'm sorry.
No, and that's what, 400 people.
Yeah, I mean, on November's town meeting, the vote was 793 to 81, and it was turned down, rejected. So I think going around this time, I personally believe there was poor advertising, and then the seasonal timing impacted the turnout as well.
Have you ever had a special town meeting
At 6 p.m.,
on
no.
June the 16th or whatever day it was?
I can't confirm that, but I know that historically, on a weekday, on a Monday, it would be about 7 p.m. So, so special town meeting, I mean, I believe it was rushed along to meet the MBTA deadline of July 14th. Yeah.
And what is Duxbury's status with regards to the unfunded mandates? Did they drop out of that, or?
We're dropping out of that, yes. The actual plan is, I've heard from my sources, is that we want a free ride on the other towns that may be suing,
Right.
may be continuing the appeal. So
'Cause
we
even
won't
though-
be contributing.
Because even
the
though
cost.
Judge Gildea ruled against, actually granted the state's dismissal motion to dismiss the suit for towns that were applying to have the unfunded mandate provisions applied.
Yeah.
Even though Gildea granted the state's dismissal, he apparently in his ruling, from what I'm reading, left it open for an easy appeal. Is that true? Do you think that's what's happening?
Yes, and Middleton also appealed. So Middleton appealed yesterday, and we're counting on you, Marshfield.
Yes. Well, we'll be there. We're going to be there working as hard as we can to make sure it continues on. And our select board chair right now, Eric Kelley, has actually said that even if it requires going all the way to the United States Supreme Court, he's committed to trying to set this right. And in the meantime, we can remove Maura Healey. Does that sound like a plan?
I think the whole plan.
Overreach.
Oh, go on.
Nope, that was it.
Oh, okay. The whole plan is to get to November 2026, and then hopefully Brian Shortsleeve can be elected governor, and then he wants to repeal it, but just get somebody else in there who will make some compromises with these towns. The court cases aren't actually scheduled to be finished till 2028, so we just have to get to a place where we can make compromises.
Right. And I think we had another video with some commentary on the delay of the MBTA Communities Act. This I'm not too familiar with. This is clip number 7. We can maybe get that in.
Who booed me? Oh, okay, cute.
The House budget debate brought some highlights this week, including a congratulatory maiden speech from State Representative Ken Sweezy, who sought to delay the enforcement of the MBTA Communities Act.
I truly believe that this is a rare, nonpartisan issue that I get to speak on, and I think, as you will see, it has bipartisan support. So I ask you to join me here today. Thank you.
However, a petty Danielle Gregor stormed her way through the chamber to rain insults on the freshman representative.
I hate to be this person, but I've been here for so long. I wonder if you were old enough to vote when we passed the MBTA Communities Act in 2021. Who booed me? Oh, okay, cute.
Although the amendment was defeated, Sweezy did in fact earn bipartisan support. And despite Gregor's classless move, Sweezy was a gentleman and shook the hand of the Marlborough rep.
The chair would like to inform the members and congratulate the member on his inaugural speech.
Stay with Mass Fiscal as we continue to highlight and lowlight the passage of a record-setting budget.
So you see, the battle is not just citizens getting involved locally, but citizens taking over local elected and appointed offices, and then applying that base to start working on who's representing you on the state level. Because with the kind of margin that you just saw there, a reasonable amendment being shot down by that kind of a margin, only 30 yes votes to that amendment, to 120 something. I mean, that shows we've got a long way to go and a lot of work to do. This is something you got to be in for the long haul. And it starts locally by going to your town meeting, by getting on local boards and committee, and by swinging some of these seats over to people that care. It's as simple as that. I've been at it for over 20 years here, and we're finally making some headway. And while we're making headway, what we're now seeing, again, I'll go back to what I started out the show with, is the empire is now striking back. Okay? They brought a list of personalities, you could say, in this town to get up and speak in favor of, say, keeping Bob Galvin on as our town council. And they're going to bring a list of people to try to find a way to chip away at Eric Kelley. And it's not going to end. They're going to keep coming, but we will be ready for them. I guarantee you that.
Can I just say something about Eric?
Yes, please.
I talked to Eric about the playground situation, and what he told me was that you can't until you're actually in the seat. He said he recognized he had been very critical of people before he was elected, but unless you're in the seat, you can't imagine the weight that's on you, the idea that you're going to spend $750,000 and what happens if the playground falls apart in 3 years. So he was just very concerned. He wanted to make sure that the playground worked for the kids.
And at the very minimum, as I said earlier, he's getting everybody on record.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, we went through an ordeal when we were getting ready to build the playground down at Library Plaza. And there was a lot of concern about the materials being used, about their durability and potential toxicity. And I think basically we're just kind of following the same template and trying to make sure that what's done is durable and safe. I don't see it any other way. But for people to vent against Eric like it's all his fault that the playgrounds aren't in place when for over 30 years they've been basically neglected from what I can tell. And there's been just like individual efforts to try to make suitable playgrounds. You know, it's not fair, and it's not fair, and it's an issue that's being politicized with an ulterior motive, in my view, and that is to stop the erosion of the regime, to try to abate or cancel out the changes that are that we're undergoing right now in Marshfield, which is for a new, transparent, and accountable administration.
Can I just say something? too?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say, I think we also want to acknowledge how frustrating it must be for those moms who want to bring their kids to the playground and they can't get their kids onto the playground and all the other kids are on the playground. So I mean, I think that is, just emotionally, it's really important to recognize their struggle there.
Yes, and I can attest to struggles when it comes to kids and relatives, and children of relatives that have various challenges. I've got some very intimate, close experience with that in terms of dealing with autistic children and children with other limitations, you could say. Limitations also that somehow eventually find a way to transpose into opportunities to do things for people and to recognize other people's plights. So there's always a positive angle to these things, but you're absolutely right, Christine. You have to walk in other people's shoes to see what they're going through and recognize that the frustration and the way things are being expressed comes out of that frustration.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So there's no downplaying that, and there's no lack of identification or sympathy for those kinds of situations. But at the same time, as an elected official, you have to try to bring accountability into the equation.
Yeah,
for the future children
hard,
too.
It's a hard balance because people, I think it's just difficult for people in that situation. And then it's also, you don't want to waste $750,000. So it's just,
right.
I think it's hard.
And I don't even know how they came up with that figure of $750,000. I mean, I really don't know, because it probably couldn't, again, we got $750,000, but we also got, from what we're finding out, $300,000 in a kitty somewhere under the DPW. And people should not be trying to grandstand on this issue. And I saw a lot of grandstanding at that select board meeting. And I don't think Sean Patterson, for example, has the right to say the meeting is over and the discussion is over. Sean, that's not your place, all right? Go back to the DPW meetings and give a good superintendent's report for a change, okay? Tell us in some detail what's actually going on there, and you'll gain some more credibility. It's not your place. That was not your meeting, not your call. So enough of the grandstanding. Let's get to work on the issue. And I wish you guys luck in setting up your new committee, ad hoc, I guess. It almost sounds like shadow government activity.
That's the idea.
And we've got a lot of people here that are very good at watching the books here, but municipal finance is a big area. That's a big field to delve into, especially when you get a hold of something like the school committee budget.
The school committee budget is just a complete nightmare, but I think starting with the town, I think there's easy places to cut, like the human resources. I think they don't have an automatic payroll system. It's very antiquated. You just have to cut a little bit of money. The school has already for this year over budgeted by $1.4 million, and they're calling it offset, and they're going to go spend it on something else. I mean, I think there's a lot of money on there. I think the town of Duxbury can save the town as it is, so that all the residents who live there now can continue to live there and also provide really great services to
and many of them
residents.
Elderly or senior citizens that are on fixed incomes, that many of whom are like what they call house poor. In other words, you get a beautiful big house, but you get no money to spend because of taxes. Taxes and utilities are like the big limiting factors right now, which rarely get recognized.
Well, anyway, we have older people who are living in their basements because they have to rent out their houses.
Well, that sound means it's all over for now. It's great to have Derek Bennett and Christine Hill here. Duxbury Substack, check it out. I'm Joe Pasevich for Control Room. I hope to see you next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful summer weekend.